Before you close your eyes tonight, I want you to consider something strange. Right now, at this very moment, there are two versions of you. The one listening to these words and the one waiting in the darkness of sleep. Jung spent his life studying this divide, the boundary between the conscious mind that strives and struggles and the unconscious mind that remembers everything you've tried to forget. This isn't a typical video about self-improvement. This is designed for the hours between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., when your defenses are down, when the ego finally stops pretending, when truth has permission to surface. Many of you will fall asleep before this ends. That's not just okay, it's intended. Because Jung discovered something profound. Transformation doesn't require you to be awake. In fact, some of the deepest psychological shifts happen precisely when consciousness fades and the unconscious takes over. While you sleep tonight, your mind will continue processing these ideas, reorganizing old patterns, dissolving outdated structures you've carried for years. So dim the lights, get comfortable. Let your breathing find its natural rhythm. You don't need to fight sleep when it comes. Let these words become background, a gentle current carrying you towards something you've been avoiding. Something you're finally ready to face. The old version of you that needs to die so the real one can breathe. Let's begin this journey into the dark. Listen softly. Within you exists a part that has been slowly deteriorating. Not because years are passing, but because you keep resurrecting the same worn-out identity. Safe, recognizable, and quietly suffocating. Every morning when you wake, you carry on your shoulders that same expired self. The one perpetually seeking ease, perpetually dodging honesty, perpetually delaying growth. But Jung made it explicit. Nobody accesses genuine consciousness without enduring discomfort. That is the price of awareness. Jung labeled it the shadow, the unconscious territory you reject, yet which directs your existence. Jung believed that until you illuminate what lies in darkness, you will continue experiencing a life steered by invisible forces and label it destiny. And there exists the deepest tragedy, when someone accepts becoming their own photocopy, cycling through safe routines without evolving. Maturity is an intentional decision. It emerges when you're forced to choose between suffering and stagnation. It surfaces when you comprehend that to live meaningfully, you must allow parts of yourself to perish. Therefore, forcing yourself to transform is not hollow motivation, but sacred obligation. The obligation to remove each layer of outdated skin, each obsolete conviction, each pattern that confines you within yourself. The old self's death is not an ending. It is the ceremonial rebirth of your authentic being. In tonight's video, you will encounter a powerful summons rising from deep within the unconscious. It's time to confront yourself. Time to force yourself to become the person you once feared becoming. The resilient, genuine version that cannot retreat. Are you prepared? Number 1. Recognizing the old self, the unconscious shadow controlling you. Carl Jung once declared, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That is not abstract philosophy. It is harsh reality. Most of your choices, patterns, reactions, and even the coincidences in your existence are not accidental at all. They are outcomes of a part you cannot perceive. The shadow. That shadow is not evil, but the part you have dismissed. It is the wounded child you never acknowledged. It is the rage you suppress to seem composed. It is the longings you label as incorrect. It is the voice you silenced to be loved, to be accepted. Every time you conceal a genuine emotion, every time you compromise for security, you grant that shadow another fragment of power. And gradually, it becomes the genuine controller within you, perpetually operating in darkness. Jung believed that people do not genuinely live. They merely replay the unprocessed elements of the unconscious. Examine your own existence. How many times have you fallen into the same relationship pattern? Partners who are perpetually distant, perpetually making you feel inadequate. How many times have you repeated the same cycle, beginning with enthusiasm, then abandoning when difficulty emerges? How many times have you promised yourself, "I will transform," only to return to the identical spot weeks later? That is not weakness. That is the shadow directing you through the familiar grooves of the unconscious. Pause briefly and attempt to look deeply within yourself. You may have changed considerably, but have you genuinely entered a new chapter? Or are you simply redecorating the old room with fresh promises? Are you genuinely free, or simply locking yourself in a more comfortable version of the familiar cage? Everyone believes they are progressing, but sometimes we are only circling in the same maze where the old self still possesses the key. The old self is the product of that process. It is constructed not from your genuine nature, but from survival mechanisms. As a child, you learn to rationalize pain to survive. You masked the fear of abandonment by pleasing others. You avoided failure by not daring to attempt, and so each piece of the old self formed like armor, protecting you from pain, but also imprisoning you in a glass cage. But that armor over time becomes a prison. The old self begins fearing anything that might fracture it, like change, truth, or responsibility. It despises uncertainty, so it keeps you in the safe zone even as that zone deteriorates. It fears pain, so it forbids you from loving deeply, committing fully. It fears failure, so it prevents you from initiating great things. It is the most dangerous adversary because it always disguises itself with a reasonable voice. "I just want to be safe." But Jung warned that the place you fear most is where the treasure you require lies. Consider a concrete example. A man in his 30s, stable career, life without deficiency. But every time a promotion opportunity emerges, he feels unprepared. He tells himself, "I'm probably not suited for leadership." He does not realize that in the unconscious, he remains the 5-year-old boy criticized by his father for thinking he's intelligent. The conviction, "I'm not good enough," has become part of the old self's structure. Every time he avoids an opportunity, he is not refusing the position. He is refusing his own evolution. And that is how the shadow maintains its power, by making you believe you are making rational choices. The shadow does not only reside in negative habits, it conceals in things you think are positive too. A person who is perpetually kind and enthusiastic for others may not be genuinely compassionate, but afraid of being despised. Kindness born from fear is no longer illumination, but a subtle form of manipulation. The shadow can wear a mask of virtue when it knows that is the easiest way to survive without detection. To recognize the old self, you must begin by observing yourself when nobody is watching. When criticized, how do you respond? When others succeed, what do you experience when alone? Where does your mind drift? Each reaction is a clue. For the shadow never vanishes. It is only illuminated. Jung believed that life's task is not to destroy the darkness, but to integrate it into consciousness's light. And this is where many stumble. They want to eliminate the old self, to erase weakness, fear, negative emotions. But Jung pointed out that denial is precisely what strengthens the darkness. The more you attempt to deny the dark part within you, the more it possesses you in silence. Like attempting to hold a ball underwater, the harder you press it down, the stronger it rebounds. The only way is to learn dialogue with it. For example, when you feel envy, instead of feeling ashamed, ask yourself, what part of me is feeling abandoned? When angry, do not force yourself to calm down. See what the anger is protecting inside. When lazy, listen to what is draining your motivation. Every negative emotion is a message from the unconscious part summoning your attention. Ignoring it is refusing your own truth. The old self exists not only in personal psychology but also in the collective unconscious. The concept Jung described as humanity sharing ancient behavioral archetypes. Society glorifies stability, security, average, and thus the collective unconscious makes you feel guilty for wanting to transcend limits. You are taught that ambition is arrogance, solitude is failure, and the desire for change is dangerous, and you believe it not because it is true, but because it has been imprinted in the collective psyche across generations. But Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That is the first step to perceiving the shadow. Because when you genuinely look, you will see that the old self is not someone else. It is you in a stage that has not yet learned to love itself properly. And when you understand that, judgment fades, creating space for recognition." Recognizing the old self is not a comfortable journey. It is the process of dissecting the soul, where you must open each wound that has scarred over but never genuinely healed. But only by looking there do you see your genuine structure clearly. Which beliefs are inherited, which fears are transmitted, which dreams genuinely belong to you. And then as recognition's light shines into that dark corner, you begin feeling a quiet shift. Old habits lose their appeal, excuses lose their weight, and a feeling both fearful and liberating rises. That is the sign you are touching your genuine part. The part no longer controlled by the shadow, but learning to coexist with it. Number 2. Individuation. The true process of rebirth. Once you have dared to shine light into the darkness, the real journey has only just commenced. Recognition is never sufficient. Perceiving the shadow does not transform you if you still choose to remain in it. That is when Carl Jung names the next stage, individuation. The process he viewed as the ultimate goal of human psychological existence. And it is not mere development. It is rebirth, the death of an old ego so that a genuine being can be born. Individuation is not about becoming superior, but becoming truer. It does not transform you into a perfect version, but into yourself. The self that has never fully existed because it was surrounded by layers of conditions, expectations, and fears. Jung believed that every person is born with a central self, the deepest soul, both personal and eternal. But as we mature, we are socialized, trimmed to fit molds. And gradually, that self is obscured by the roles we must wear. Eventually, you no longer know where the role concludes and the real commences. The process of individuation is the journey back to that central self. But to arrive there, you must pass through the desert of the soul, where the ego disintegrates. Jung likened it to the hero's journey in mythology. The one who departs the safe village, enters the darkness, confronts the monster, dies, and returns with the treasure of awakening. That monster is the part you fear most in yourself. The treasure is the authentic self. In modern psychology, this process is called ego death, but Jung spoke of it long ago. He believed every psychological rebirth must pass through a symbolic death. The old ego cannot be upgraded, it must be dissolved. And that is never gentle. It is an inner earthquake, where old beliefs, old definitions, old relationships begin collapsing. You lose direction, no longer knowing who you are. It is a deep spiritual crisis. A night of the soul in the symbolic sense that Jung often alluded to when describing the collapse of old definitions. For example, think of Taylor Swift, a star who lived her whole life proving to the world that she deserves it. She said, "When you look into the mirror, you need to not tell yourself that you're not special, that you're not pretty, that you're not good enough." For years, she was cast into the mold of successful young woman, international star, and seemingly each milestone, each album, each award became a way to affirm, "I am this person, I have value." But one day, Taylor woke up and realized she was living for others' eyes. The question arose, If I am not the person they want, who am I really? That question was anything but comfortable. It was like a hard crash into the mirror she had clung to for so long, the glass shattering, revealing every fragment of the false image she had worn. But it was precisely in that chaos that Taylor first heard the genuine voice inside. I have value not because of what others define, but because of me. That was the moment of individuation's beginning. Individuation, therefore, is the process of withdrawing every false identification. You no longer identify yourself with career, fame, or social roles. You begin perceiving them as changeable shells while the core remains solid and awake. You understand that who I am lies not in what I possess, but in the capacity to know oneself. Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And awakening is not a magical moment. It is a long chain of accepting inner contradictions. You want security and crave freedom. You want to be loved and fear being bound. You want to rise and fear failure. Individuation does not ask you to choose one side, but teaches you to harmonize opposing poles. Jung believed that a person reaches wholeness only when daring to live with their own paradoxes. When you are both light and shadow, weak and strong, rational and instinctual. Think of a seed. To become a tree, it must crack its shell. From the outside, that process looks like destruction. But from within, it is birth. Humans are identical. The old ego must crack, shatter, so the genuine self can rise. And just as a seed never cracks on its own without the soil's pressure, you will never change if existence does not push you to the limit. Jung once said, "Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. Crises, losses, breakups, failures, all are rituals of rebirth, but only those who see with Jung's eyes recognize it." For most fear the collapse instead of understanding that it is opening another door. In Jung's analytical therapy, he called this moment the confrontation with the genuine self, no longer blaming parents, circumstances, society. You begin taking full responsibility for your existence, and that is when the soul starts to mature. And as the ego dissolves, the first thing you feel is not freedom, but emptiness. Many stop here, mistaking it for losing oneself. But in truth, you are only losing the false version. That emptiness is new ground where the genuine self is preparing to emerge. In this moment, Jung said, symbols become the language of the soul. Dreams, images, and strange emotions begin appearing. That is how the unconscious speaks to consciousness. When you learn to listen, you will find wisdom beyond reason. That is why Jung viewed decoding dreams not as fortune-telling, but as a dialogue with the soul. And then, as that dialogue deepens, you realize that awakening does not stop at understanding. Understanding alone is not sufficient to transform. Knowledge opens the door. But will you dare to step through? After the soul is awakened, what it demands next is not reflection, but action, disciplined action, painful action, intentional action. And this is the stage of forced evolution, where you no longer wait for change to happen, but force yourself to create it day by day. Action by action. Choice by choice, even when nothing left in you wants to do it anymore. Number 3, forcing evolution. Psychological evolution is not a gentle river. It is a steep mountain where every step is a rebellion against old instincts. If the individuation phase helps you recognize your genuine self, then forcing evolution is the journey of living as that person with discipline, agency, and no mercy. Here, Jung does not speak of motivation. He speaks of will. Will is what rises above emotion. When you are exhausted, it still makes you step forward. When you are afraid, it forces you to look straight. When you no longer believe in yourself, it keeps you on the path. For will does not care how you feel. It only cares who you are becoming. According to numerous studies, the brain can restructure itself through conscious behavior. When you act differently, repeating it long enough, You do not just change habits, you are rewiring your own nervous system. That is the biological mechanism of forced evolution. Your brain always wants to conserve energy, so it prefers repeating the old. Therefore, to change, you must resist the natural tendency of your own body. Each time you choose discipline over the old trajectory, you are sending a signal to your brain. I am no longer that old person. Forcing evolution is not an act of physical violence, but a deliberate mental violence. The cold discipline necessary to break the outdated structures of the mind. Like forging steel, the fire does not burn the metal. It softens it for reshaping. Humans are identical. Pain does not destroy you. It makes you more flexible, more resolute, and truer. Consider the example of Robert Downey Jr., a man who once drowned in addiction and lost everything. When asked what helped him change, he said, "I had no choice but to become a new person." That is the essence of forced evolution. When the pain of staying still becomes greater than the fear of change, you are forced to step forward. But you do not need to wait until rock bottom to awaken. You can proactively create that pressure for yourself consciously by setting higher standards each day. You may be at that very crossroads where you know you must change but still linger between fear and desire. If you have ever passed through such a phase, ever forced yourself to grow despite a trembling heart, share that story below. Sometimes speaking it out is not just sharing, but a way to etch the promise to yourself. You will not return to the old zone. Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And that is precisely why so many never evolve. They accept living in the comfortable loop of stability, a passable job, a tolerable relationship, a life just sufficient, but their souls are suffocating. For the soul does not need convenience. It needs purpose. And purpose is only awakened when you push yourself beyond limits. Forcing evolution is not self-torture, but self-birthing. It does not demand you be perfect. It only demands you be honest with your direction. Each time you discipline yourself, you are telling the universe, "I am ready." And the universe always responds by sending more challenges, not to punish, but to reinforce the new form taking shape within you. Jung viewed this process as a form of ego sacrifice, for the unconscious always wants to pull you back to the safe zone. You will hear the familiar whispers in your head. Don't push too hard, rest today. It's not so bad. Why change? That is the voice of the old self, the one that once protected you, but now is the barrier. Forcing evolution means refusing to negotiate with that voice, no matter how reasonable it sounds. For if you keep listening to it, you will never hear the soul's call. Imagine within you there are two wolves. One represents evolution, courage, discipline, and action. The other is stagnation, fear, comfort, and self-pity. Which one wins? Jung would say, the one you feed each day, and you feed it with action. Every morning you wake up, you can choose to let the weak wolf feast on procrastination, laziness, or complaining. Or you can let the strong wolf grow by facing, acting, and taking responsibility. All evolution is the result of small but consistent choices. One of the most insidious traps of modern psychology is self-acceptance done wrong. Many people use the excuse, "I just want to be myself," to avoid discipline and responsibility. But Jung would disagree. He believed that oneself is not something you declare, but something you forge to become. If you accept a version of yourself that you know is weak, fearful, and incomplete, that is not self-love. That is self-betrayal. Forcing evolution is the mature act of self-love. Love to the point of not tolerating your own smallness, like a father teaching his child to walk. He does not carry the child forever. He lets it fall because he knows falling is the only way to stand firm. The universe is identical. It does not give you an easy existence, because it respects the potential in you. It forces you to collide so you awaken. Forcing evolution ultimately is not a war against yourself, but a war to save yourself. The genuine part trapped in comfort. It is discipline as a spiritual ritual. Each disciplined action is an affirmation to the universe that you are serious about your destiny. And when you look back after months, years, you will see the new person does not appear by magic. They are forged hour by hour, choice by choice, each time forcing yourself forward. That is how the soul matures, not in peace, but in pressure great enough to dissolve the old ego. For as Jung once wrote, the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. And it is precisely in the act of forcing yourself to evolve that you do it. Not just escaping the problem, but outgrowing the person who created it. Number 4, the new person must betray the old version. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are," but he never said that the journey would be gentle. To become the genuine person, you must dare to betray everything that once made you loved, praised, and accepted. The betrayal here is not impulsive denial, but a courageous act of consciousness. The old self was once a refuge where you were safe, familiar. It may have helped you survive, but now it prevents you from living genuinely. To grow, you must dare to say no to the very things that once defined you. And that is one of the deepest mental pains, betraying the very image you once believed was me. Jung believed that every person must go through an inner divorce where the genuine soul decides to leave the rotten old ego behind. It is the moment you realize, I no longer want to live like this. Not because you hate the past, but because you know you cannot carry it on the journey ahead. And like any separation, it comes with grief. You must endure the sorrow of losing the you of yesterday. For example, think of someone who lived for years in the mold others imposed. Perhaps a compliant employee or a friend who always listens. Everyone is used to that image, and gradually they too believe they must be that way to be loved, to be recognized. But one day they realize that obedience is no longer a virtue but a chain. They begin saying no to things no longer genuine to them, refusing requests, relationships, and roles they once tried to maintain. And when they do, others start to get uncomfortable. You've changed. You're too selfish. You're not yourself anymore. But in truth, that is the first time they are genuinely themselves. It is not rebellion, but the courageous act of a person daring to betray the old version to be loyal to their genuine soul. Betraying the old version means accepting the loss of your place in others' hearts. For your old self does not exist only in your mind, but in the memories of those around you. When you change, they will be unsettled. They will tell you you're not yourself anymore. But in reality, that is when you are most yourself. Jung once said, when an individual does not become conscious of their inner contradictions, the world acts out the conflict and is torn in opposite halves. The difficulty of this journey does not lie in not knowing what you need. The difficulty lies in knowing it all too well, but still clinging to the old because of the fear of losing familiarity. Like a bird that has been in a cage too long, even with the door open, it does not fly. For freedom sounds appealing, but it demands what the ego hates most: risk. Like losing a loved one, you will go through all the stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and only then acceptance. But remember, the ego's death is not a tragedy, but a sacred rite. It is the door you must pass through to touch the spiritual freedom Jung called self-realization. If you sense something stirring in your heart right now, hold on to it. Give it a sign to keep living. Perhaps a like, a subscribe to continue this journey together. Not for me, but for the part within you that wants to grow, that needs a place to be nurtured. Awakened souls always recognize each other, even in silence. Betraying the old version also means ending relationships built on the old image. When you change, some people will leave, not because you are wrong, but because you no longer fit with them. Like old clothes that no longer fit, they represent the old chapters of your existence. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. If others aren't ready to evolve with you, their departure is not a loss, but a sign you have matured." This betrayal is also symbolic. You betray the limiting beliefs that once made you small. You betray the humble to the point of inferiority version. Betray the well-behaved to the point of losing your voice version. Betray the always choosing peace over truth version. It is the necessary betrayal for rebirth. In Jung's view, this betrayal is a manifestation of reconciliation between shadow and light. For the part you betray is not entirely bad. It was once your light in an old phase, but that light has now dimmed. Holding on to it out of habit is a form of blind loyalty, and Jung called that loyalty the greatest betrayal of the soul. For Jung, this is the crux. Loyalty to the soul always demands betrayal of the ego. And betraying the ego is the bravest act a human can do. For you do not just lose a part of yourself. You step into the void where all temporary definitions dissolve. There you are no longer a better version. You are simply a truer version. Jung called this moment a return to the self. It is when you no longer need to prove, no longer need to strain to become someone. You only need to be present with absolute honesty. But to get here, you must dare to stab the old image you once worshipped. You must dare to tear down the walls built from praise, recognition, and the habit of being loved. Betraying the old version is not the act of the cold-hearted. It is the act of one who understands. True loyalty is not to the past, but to potential. You can respect the person you once were. Be grateful for helping you survive. But you cannot let them steer your path any longer. For if you do not betray the old version, you will betray your own future. And that is the most painful betrayal of all. Number 5. Maturity is war, and this is a battle without days off. But that is only the beginning of a longer war. The war to sustain the new person you have labored to birth. Jung implied something deeper. Consciousness does not exist forever. It must be nurtured daily. And this is the part where most people stumble hardest after changing. They think they are done. But the truth is, maturity is not a destination. It is a battlefield without days off. For every morning you wake up, the old self is still there, not dead, just dormant. It waits for you to weaken, waits for you to tire, waits for you to loosen discipline once, and then it rises again. Jung saw this as the eternal inner conflict between ego and self, between the person you are trying to become and the person you once were. These two forces never disappear. They only pull and tug by hour, minute by minute. And if you do not actively fight, you will be dragged back without realizing it. If betraying the old self is the first revolution, then sustaining the new person is the protracted war. Like a soldier tending the fire in a night storm, you must guard your own awareness from the undercurrents of habit. For the unconscious has a pull as strong as gravity. It draws you back to the old orbit, reflexes, programming, roles. If you slack, you slide back unnoticed. Jung called it regression into the shadow. Look back at yourself. How many times have you changed only to return to the old trajectory? You start exercising, then quit after 2 weeks. You promise to be honest with yourself, then cover it with rationalizations. You declare you will live differently, but one tiring day has you curling up in old habits. Not because you are weak, but because you forget that maturity does not sustain itself. It needs reinforcement every day through choice. Jung believed the human soul is like precious metal in the alchemical process. It must be melted down, reforged many times to take shape. He called this the alchemy of individuation, meaning you cannot reach wholeness through insight or inspiration alone. you must forge it. And forging, as every craftsman knows, is a repetitive action, sometimes boring, sometimes painful. But if you persist, what forms is not just skill but essence. That is why Jung said, a mature person can live with conflict without being destroyed by it. For conflict is not a sign of failure, it is evidence that you are still growing. The person with no contradictions has stopped growing. And so when you feel the inner battle between wanting to rest and must continue, between fear and commitment, do not think you are on the wrong path. On the contrary, that very conflict is the pulse of the maturation process. In everyday existence, you can see this more clearly than ever. A young mother trying to balance work and children. She feels guilty for always being not enough. A middle-aged man realizes the career he pursued for 20 years no longer holds meaning, but daring to change terrifies him. A student facing disorientation upon leaving the family nest, wanting freedom but fearing getting lost. They are all in the same place, on the battlefield of maturity, and no one wins on the first day. Maturity is a war without days off, because each new layer of awareness opens a deeper layer of challenge. You learn discipline, and existence demands you learn patience. You learn confidence, and existence tests you with solitude. You learn honesty, and existence sends situations, forcing you to choose between truth and comfort. This war has no rewards beyond yourself. A self increasingly solid, awake, and autonomous. And perhaps that is the profound meaning in Jung's philosophy. Maturity is not seeking absolute peace, but learning to keep equanimity amid war. When you understand that the contradictions within you are not enemies but engines of evolution, you begin to see existence differently. You do not flee the storm. You learn to walk in the rain. Maturity does not bring stability, but the strength to endure instability. Not muscular strength, but mental strength forged from 1,000 refusals of the easy, 1,000 choices of truth, 1,000 times holding firm when nobody is watching. So if you feel tired, if you are battling yourself every day, do not think you are losing. Perhaps you are exactly where Jung spoke of, right in the midst of the battlefield where the human soul is forged into gold. Maturity is war, and this war has no days off. But each time you dare to step forward amid smoke and doubt, you are proving that your consciousness will prevail. Once the door is open, what remains is not grand declarations, but the small motions you make each day. The most practical is to start with a simple standard. Do what needs doing on time, even without the spark. Wake up 15 minutes earlier to sit still and ask yourself one question. What one thing, if done today, would make me respect myself more? Then complete it before touching the phone. During the day, apply a candid filter to every choice. Does this nourish the person I am becoming, or feed back the old one? At night, close the day with 3 short lines. Which promise I kept, where I faltered, and what specific action tomorrow will correct it. You do not need to wait for a feeling of readiness. The feeling comes after you start. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. Just do not betray your own standards when unobserved. The path will still be rough, but small, disciplined steps will assemble into a directed existence. Keep going like that, quietly yet surely, and you will find yourself on the other side of the existence you have always desired. And if you have come this far, perhaps there is a part of you that no longer wants to go back. Hold that flame with a follow or a symbol below. Those small things are enough to remind you you are on the way to becoming yourself. There exists something peculiar about the moment you arrived at this next chapter, not because you were searching for it, and not because chance brought you here. It is as though a frequency had been traveling through layers of noise, moving across days, perhaps even months, just to reach you at this precise instant. An encounter that was never planned, yet strangely exact in the way Jung perceived existence. No convergence is truly random. Some moments do not emerge from reasoning, but from the depths of the unconscious. And this may very well be one of them. The peculiar thing is this. This transmission only needs to find you once, because the nature of inner transformation is that it always occurs in stillness at the right moment and never duplicates itself. Once you cross through that boundary, you no longer belong to the former space. So if you are here, if you paused instead of moving past, it means something in you is already prepared, ready to look directly at yourself, willing to face the deepest part of you that has been calling to be recognized. And this is only the beginning. Because right after these lines, what you are about to encounter is not just language. It is the mirror the unconscious has been waiting a very long time to place in your hands. And if you want to turn this moment into a small milestone, you can write just 4 words in the comments. I accept the challenge, as a silent commitment to your inner journey. Number 1. Jung's mechanism of transformation. There exists a truth Jung never stopped emphasizing, though most of us only vaguely grasp it. Inner transformation does not occur because you desire it to. It happens when something inside you is touched in a quiet, irreversible way. There is no loud detonation, no magnificent moment. Only a subtle shift, so delicate that if you are not paying attention, you will think nothing has occurred. But from that moment on, you are no longer the person you were the day before. Jung called this the process of awakening the unconscious, where a piece of content that has long been concealed suddenly rises to the surface and confronts you as if it had been waiting far too long to be seen. It does not ask permission, does not consult you, and does not wait for you to be ready. It appears only when its natural time has come. And when it comes, you are forced to change the way you perceive the world. Sometimes a transformation begins with things so small you would never suspect. A sentence you overhear in a cafe, a stranger's gaze that leaves you inexplicably unsettled, a seemingly ordinary situation that makes you go silent for a few seconds. These moments are like the unconscious knocking on your door. When you open it, even if only a crack, you have no idea that an entirely new space is waiting on the other side. In Jungian psychology, we live like overlapping circles. One circle is the conscious ego, where you know who you are, what you think, and what you want. The other circles are the vast unconscious, holding darkness, wounds, repressed memories, instincts, intuition, archetypes, and even truths you have never dared to touch. When real transformation happens, it is when a deeper circle collides with the surface circle and shakes the entire structure you have been living in. You do not choose this. You only feel the impact. What is frightening is that this transformation does not take on a predictable form. It is not the kind of change modern people like to discuss, like starting a new habit or changing your mindset. Transformation in Jung's sense is a shift in inner structure, not changing behavior first, but changing the essence that forces behavior to change accordingly. It is like turning a compass just a few degrees in the dark, and the next morning you are surprised to find yourself walking in a direction you had never considered before. Think back to a recent moment. Maybe you were listening to someone talk about living true to yourself, a theme so familiar that you have heard it hundreds of times. But then on some random day you hear that same sentence, yet this time it hits you in a way that makes you freeze for a few seconds. You just feel your heart go still, and in that moment what was familiar suddenly becomes real. It is not new information, it is activation. As if your unconscious had been waiting for that exact day, at that exact version of you, to flip the switch. Transformation happens like that, a very small click with an effect that stretches across years. The key lies in the depth. People tend to think change means trying harder, being more disciplined, and pushing themselves more. But Jung pointed out that every surface-level change will always fail if the deeper layer underneath does not move. You can try to live positively, but if deep down you still believe you are not worthy, every effort will only be a coat of paint over a cracked wall. You can promise to let someone go, But if your shadow still binds you with the fear of being alone, you will go back to them by sheer inertia. True transformation is when you look directly at the reason you are stuck, when you stop avoiding it, when you allow the light to shine on the exact place that hurts the most. And that always begins with a very small moment, very quiet, but very important. The mechanism of transformation in Jung's view is not magic. It is an internal reorganization. A layer of the unconscious is brought into the light. A part of the shadow is called by its name. A forgotten fragment of the soul is brought home. And each time that happens, the inner structure of your being changes. You become a new version of yourself without having to try to become a new person. Someone once said they completely changed their life because of one evening standing in front of the mirror, looking at themselves and feeling, "I don't recognize this person anymore." It was just a sudden clarity, and that clarity pulled them out of their old life, as if they had just stepped into a new room in the house of their soul. That is the mechanism of transformation Jung wanted us to understand. A natural force, quiet yet powerful. A single moment of illumination, but heavy with weight. One single touch, but enough to alter the entire direction of your life. Number 2. The moments that only come once in a lifetime. And when transformation enters your life in such a quiet way, it always leads you to another truth, Jung emphasized. Some moments come only once in your life. A single time, a time that does not repeat, cannot be rewound, cannot be recreated in any form. If the moment of transformation is the first touch, then those once-in-a-lifetime moments are the doors that open and then immediately close, leaving you standing on the other side without fully understanding what just happened. Yet, it is precisely these moments that mark the true maturation of the soul. From Jung's perspective, these special moments occur when the content of the unconscious and the circumstances of the outer world align perfectly, like two long-lost pieces of a puzzle finally clicking together. He called this a meaningful coincidence, synchronicity. It is not a miracle, but a moment when you and the world speak the same language for a few brief seconds. And when that language sounds, it awakens something you had never named. Someone once shared that he met an anonymous old man during a bus ride at sunset. They talked for just 10 minutes. The old man told him, "Don't live the life other people think is right. Life is shorter than you think." He never asked the man's name, never saw him again. But 3 months later, he handed in his resignation, leaving a job he had stayed in for 8 years just to satisfy his family. He said he did not remember the old man's face, but remembered exactly the tone of his voice that day. A single moment, yet it altered the trajectory of an entire life. What makes these moments sacred is not their surprise, but their impossibility of repetition. You can try to find the person who said the words that woke you up. You can retrace the road you walked that day, the chair you sat on, the sunlight of that afternoon, but it is useless. That point in time is gone, and the psychological space you were in that day no longer exists. This makes those one-time moments precious because they do not come to be kept. They come to be absorbed. These special moments often appear in very simple forms. A rainy afternoon that makes you think of someone no longer in your life. An old song that suddenly plays and makes you realize you have forgiven a person you thought you would hate forever. A very short text message from someone who makes your chest feel lighter. These seemingly small things are actually the heartbeats of the unconscious. Each beat only sounds once. Many people do not realize how important such moments are because they are waiting for a big sign. But the unconscious does not operate with thunder. It works with subtlety. Jung said that small moments are what shape psychological life. Just like how a road that is off by a few centimeters at the starting point can lead you to a different continent at the end. A quiet moment of awakening can change the entire direction of your life without any announcement. A once-in-a-lifetime moment is often not recognized while it is happening. You only realize you passed through it when you look back. When you realize that was the day everything changed. This makes them a special kind of milestone. You only see their value after you have already stepped into a new version of yourself. A version that no longer fits the old questions. And so these moments never return. Not because they are lost, but because you are no longer the person who could receive them the way you did. Just as you cannot return to the moment you first learned to ride a bicycle. That moment finished its task and disappeared. But the change it brought lives on inside you. What makes these moments unique is the intersection between two currents, the outer life and your inner movement. When the two align, you have a once-in-a-lifetime moment. When they do not, no matter if someone says the same sentence, you watch the same video, or the circumstances look identical, nothing in you moves. And this is the truth Jung wanted us to understand. The moments that only come once are the language the unconscious uses to speak to you. They are signals sent at the exact time, at the right depth, to the precise layer you need to step through. Not earlier, not later. If they come too early, you will miss them. If they come too late, you will have closed yourself off. But when they arrive at the right moment, they open a path you cannot turn your back on anymore. Number 3. The human fear of things that only appear once. Moments that only come once in a lifetime don't just have the power to lead you into a new version of yourself. They also leave behind a particular kind of fear. The fear that you've lost something that will never return. Jung once said that much of human insecurity comes from our tendency to cling to what has already completed its course. When a perfect moment ends, instead of letting it dissolve into us as a lesson, we keep running after it as if something were still missing. And when we realize it cannot come back, fear rushes in like a cold wave. We are afraid of things that only appear once because we are used to repetition. The mind feels safer when everything has rhythm, structure, and predictability. A thing that happens only once shatters that entire sense of security. It is like walking down a familiar road and suddenly seeing a flash of light appear and disappear into the forest. You know you saw it. You feel its meaning, but you cannot call it back to make sure it really existed. The unconscious sends a signal once, then falls quiet. And it is precisely that silence that confuses the ego. Jung saw this as the ego's reaction when confronted with material that is too deep. The ego always wants control, wants proof, wants one more time to be certain it was not mistaken. But the unconscious operates oppositely. Once a message has been sent and received, it no longer needs to repeat itself. The fact that it appears only once is the sign of its completeness. Yet the ego interprets completeness as loss. We fear what comes only once because it forces us to grow up instantly. There is no preparation time, no promises, no transition phase. Like meeting a person who suddenly makes you see the truth about yourself, you don't want them to disappear. Not because they are so important in themselves, but because they are the mirror reflecting what you never dared to face. When the mirror is gone, you fear you won't have the courage to hold on to that truth. In psychology, there is a concept called the emotional anchoring effect. Humans tend to attach themselves to strong emotional sources, especially uplifting or awakening experiences. When a moment opens up a new layer of awareness, it creates an inner shock, and naturally we want to freeze it, to go back and make sure it was not just a passing feeling. But here lies the paradox. The stronger the moment, the less it repeats because its very impact turns you into a different person. A once-in-a-lifetime moment only fits the version of you that existed then. Once that version fades, the moment no longer fits. It is like trying to return to a sunset so beautiful it left you breathless. You go back to the same place the next day or a week later. The sun still sets, the sky still changes color, but the feeling is gone. Not because the sunset is any less beautiful, but because you are no longer the person who saw it that first time. If right now a once-in-a-lifetime moment has just resurfaced in you, one that you've never really named, let it breathe a little in the comments below. You don't need to tell the whole story. Just a single line is enough for you to acknowledge to yourself, you are ready to move on. Many people fall into the loop of trying to recreate once-in-a-lifetime moments because they believe repetition will strengthen the feeling. But in truth, the very fact that it does not repeat is the proof that it has finished its task. If it shows up again, it means you have not fully understood, not integrated, not truly changed. Repetition in the spiritual realm is often a sign of being stuck, not of evolution. Notice the relationships you tried to return to, only to realize the feeling was no longer the same. Not because the other person changed, but because you had moved to a different level, or a book that once brought you to tears. But now when you read it again, you feel nothing. Not because it has become less good, but because you have already walked past the lesson it carried. And Jung always reminded you that fear is completely natural. It is simply the echo of the part of you that has not yet caught up with your new level of growth. What you think is gone is in fact being transferred inward, becoming a part of you. So when you feel unsettled in front of something that only appears once, remember, it has not abandoned you. It came to give you exactly what it was meant to give, then left so you would have space to grow. What is truly frightening is not that the moment disappears, but that you refuse to move forward after it has already opened the way for you. Number 4, the conditions for a message to find you. And it is precisely this fear of things that only appear once that leads us to a more important question. If transformative moments cannot be repeated, what determines when they arrive? Why is it that sometimes a message pierces straight into your heart like an arrow? Yet at other times, even if you hear the same thing, it passes by like a gust of wind. Why are there days when a single sentence is enough to change the direction of your life, and other days when 100 pieces of advice cannot move you at all? This is where Jung offers an answer that is both simple and profound. A message does not find you based on willpower, but based on how open your consciousness is at that exact moment. According to Jung, human consciousness is never static. It contracts and expands in invisible cycles like the breathing of the soul. When consciousness contracts, you live within the fortress of the ego, where everything is understood in familiar ways. But when consciousness opens, signals from the unconscious begin to filter through. And if a message appears right when that door is slightly ajar, it will pierce through your outer defenses and hit the deepest part of you. The condition for a message to find you is not that you seek it, but that you enter a state of inner readiness. It is a moment when the rigid blocks inside you begin to soften. A time when the surface of your life may look unchanged, but your inner world has just cracked slightly in a new direction. That crack creates an opening just wide enough for the light to enter, and only then does the message become meaningful. Imagine reading a book at a time when you are not hurt, not conflicted, not weighed down by any questions. You might think it's good, but it passes through you lightly. Yet, if you read the same book while you are in crisis, feeling lost, standing at the threshold of change, certain lines suddenly become a lifeline. The words themselves haven't changed. You have. And that change is what makes the message suddenly sharp, precise, and aligned with the exact depth you are touching. This phenomenon is called selective perception. The brain does not take in everything, only what matches the internal state at that moment. Like when you are thinking of buying a white car and suddenly you see white cars everywhere. The world has not changed, your filter has. For Jung, the conditions for a message to find you work similarly, but at a deeper level. It is not that you simply want to listen. It is that your unconscious wants to speak. When a layer of content in the unconscious is about to rise, the external world will provide a signal to trigger it. That may be someone's words, a song, a line you scroll past, or this very video you're watching. It does not appear by chance. It appears because your inner state has reached the point of convergence. The condition for a message to find you is like two frequencies syncing. A message can circle your life for years, but you only really hear it when you are broadcasting on the same frequency it is on. And when the two match, the volume does not need to be high. A single note is enough to move you. Jung believed that each soul has its own timing for receiving certain lessons. Some lessons come when you are very young. Some come only after you have gone through many wounds. Some arrive in your calmest moments. And some appear right when you think you have completely collapsed. You do not choose that timing. It is chosen by your individuation process. The journey of becoming the person you were born to be. The truth is, a message does not need you to hunt for it. It only needs you to be quiet enough to hear the call within, like the waves of the sea that are always there. But you only hear them when the waters inside you grow still. So what are the real conditions for a message to reach you? It is the moment when the fortress of the ego trembles just a little, when you are tired enough to stop pretending to be strong, when you are honest enough to look at what you've been avoiding. In those seemingly weak moments, the unconscious extends its hand. And if at that exact time the world sends you a message, you do not just hear it, you absorb it. A message finds you when you are in the state Jung called the potential for transformation, a fragile balance point between collapse and awakening. When you are no longer clinging to the old, but have not yet arrived at the new. When you are standing at a threshold without knowing where you are about to step. At that place, any sentence, image, or moment that touches you can become the spark that ignites a new chapter. Thank you for walking with me through half of this journey. If these last lines made your heart pause for even a beat, then stay until the end, because what comes next may be the missing piece your unconscious has been trying to send you. And if you want to give the algorithm a small signal that you did not just stumble here by accident, leave a small sign with a like or a subscribe. Not to support the channel, but to mark for yourself that you are ready to fully receive the message life is bringing you. Number 5. Stepping through the threshold. And whether you step through or not is the decisive moment that determines whether the message becomes a living truth within you or remains just a brief flash passing through your mind. The interesting thing is that the threshold never looks like a grand opportunity. It doesn't arrive with drums or stage lights. Instead, it usually appears as a vague, hard-to-describe feeling, a weariness you can't explain, a small intuition that you cannot keep living the way you have, or a gentle urge to pause for a moment and look into yourself. That is the first sign that you are standing before a threshold. Stepping through the threshold is not as forceful an act as people often imagine. In reality, it begins with a softening. When the ego is no longer rigidly resisting, when you stop trying to control or cling to familiar feelings, you open a space for transformation to occur. And stepping through the threshold is the first act of letting go. Letting go of the old, of the way you used to think about yourself, of the way you used to fight against what you feared to face. According to Jung, there is a moment called the liminal moment. A moment when a person no longer belongs to the starting point but has not yet arrived at the destination. It is like standing between two rooms. The door behind you has closed, but the door in front is still unclear. When you stand in this liminal zone, the ego feels lost, empty, and out of control. But to Jung, this is the sacred space of rebirth. Only in this in-between can the old structures dissolve so that new ones can be born. Think back to the last time you stood before a decision you knew would change your entire life. It might have been leaving a relationship that had gone on for too long, changing a job everyone thought you would never quit, or simply speaking a truth you had hidden in your heart for many years. Before that moment, you always felt yourself being pulled back toward the old. But right after you spoke, acted, or accepted something, you felt inexplicably lighter. That is the moment you stepped through the threshold. A familiar example. Someone stays in a painful relationship for many years. Friends tell them, family advises them, and they themselves know they have to leave. But they don't. Not because they don't understand, but because they have not yet stood at the threshold. Until one day, without a fight, without a shock, there is only a quiet moment. They look at the other person and recognize a truth. I am no longer here. And they leave. Not because a new piece of advice appeared, but because the threshold had finally opened. When you step through the threshold, the first thing you may feel is not happiness, but emptiness. Jung believed this emptiness is precisely the space where the old ego dissolves. It is like taking off a skin that has become too tight. The initial feeling is not liberation, but strangeness, unfamiliarity, a slight chill. Yet it is this very unfamiliarity that is the proof you have entered new ground. In the process of individuation, the journey back to your true self, the threshold appears many times. And each time it opens, you are forced to confront a deeper truth about who you are. But only when you agree to step through does the message that found you truly become a part of you. If you stop at the threshold, the message remains just knowledge. If you step through, it becomes life. And then something strange happens. The moment you enter this new world, the old world loses the power it once held over you. Fear no longer controls you. Attachment no longer binds you. The old questions no longer haunt you. It is as if an old door quietly disappears behind you, silent and absolute. And from here on, the only thing that remains is this: how will you live in the land you have just stepped into? If there is a door in your life that you once hesitated to step through, leave a small sign below. It could be a number, a symbol, or a short sharing. These marks will remind you that you have seen that threshold. Number 6. The loop of searching. Once you have stepped through a threshold, your inner life begins to change in ways that are hard to describe in words. But there is a paradox that most of us fall into right afterward. Instead of letting the change unfold naturally, we unconsciously slip back into a state of searching. We keep looking for more answers, more signs, more confirmation, as if the touch we just received were not strong enough to trust. And so the loop of searching begins to form. A loop that makes you run in circles around outer messages and forget that the most important shift has already happened inside. The loop of searching is one of the biggest temptations of this era. We live in a world where every question has countless answers. Every problem has thousands of pieces of advice, and every inner emptiness has some piece of content ready to fill it. You only have to scroll for a moment, and a whole universe of meaning opens before you. But precisely because there is so much, the mind is pulled into an unconscious behavior, looking for more, then more, and more again. Jung said that the ego tends to accumulate knowledge to avoid facing the inner truth. It prefers knowing to becoming. It prefers accumulation to transformation. And so the loop of searching is not about you lacking information, but about you trying to use information to avoid the silence required for true transformation. Think back to the days you felt lost. You watched this video, read that article, and listened to another podcast. At first, you felt relieved, as if someone was speaking on behalf of the part of you that couldn't find the words. But that relief didn't last. You started to need more information, more content, more reassurance to hold yourself together. And this endless searching creates a sad truth. You no longer listen to understand. You listen to soothe yourself, like drinking seawater when you're thirsty. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Jung saw this loop long ago. He believed that modern people tend to chase outer light to avoid looking at their inner darkness. Because looking into the darkness is always harder than hearing another comforting piece of advice. Touching the real wound is always more painful than reading another healing page. And facing yourself is always harder than pressing play on the next video. The loop of searching operates like a maze. The more you run, the more you believe you are nearing the exit. But in reality, you are only going deeper into a mental panic. Jung, however, affirmed that inner growth only happens when you are willing to stop, because the unconscious cannot speak to a mind that is running. It only begins to speak when you are quiet enough to listen. Jung said there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The loop of searching ends not when you know enough, but when you dare to live according to what you already know. When you stop collecting and start practicing, when you stop listening outward and begin listening inward, when you stop looking for signs outside and start reading the signs within. And something is interesting. The loop of searching becomes strongest right after you receive the most important message. Why? Because that message forces you to change. And the ego fears change more than it fears ignorance. It will pull you back by making you think you are not ready yet, don't fully understand, still need more. That is how the ego delays transformation. It doesn't stop you from learning. It simply makes you learn so much that you never act. But there is one point on which Jung and many other depth psychologists agree. Once the true message has really touched you, the loop of searching begins to lose energy. External accumulation no longer satisfies you. You feel tired at the thought of having to listen to more. You feel as if every piece of advice is starting to sound the same. That is not a sign of boredom. It is a sign of completion. Number 7. The ritual of closing the loop. When the search loop has drained its final bit of energy, and you begin to realize that no further advice can give you what you're looking for, that is when you enter the most important stage, the ritual of closing the loop. Jung believed that every true transformation requires a symbolic act, not because the act itself is mystical, but because the human psyche cannot integrate a lesson until it has been sealed with a clear mark. Just as you cannot leave a room while the door is still open, you must close it so you can step into the new space with full integrity. Closing the loop is not abandonment nor denial. It is the ritual acknowledgement that what you needed has been given. The lesson has been completed, and you are ready to carry it into your life. The first ritual Jung often mentioned is the act of naming the experience. When you write it down, speak it aloud, or silently acknowledge a truth within yourself, you bring unconscious content into the light. This naturally closes the loop because the unconscious cannot integrate anything still left in a blurred, undefined form. When you articulate it, you give it shape. And once it has shape, it knows where it belongs inside you. Try writing one simple sentence. I have heard this enough. You may feel an unexpected lightness, not because the sentence is powerful, but because you just signaled to your mind that the search process is complete. The next ritual is empowering your intuition. A loop only continues when you don't trust what you already know, when you believe others understand you better than you understand yourself, when you believe the answer lies outside rather than within. But when you return to listening to your intuition, you reclaim the inner authority that the loop once stole from you. Jung called this the act of returning to the center. To practice this, all you need is 2 minutes of stillness. Place your hand over your chest or your belly and ask yourself, right now, what do I truly know? The answer might be a feeling, a direction, a single word that appears in your mind. But the moment you ask yourself, the loop loses its control. The next ritual is affirmation through commitment. This does not require heavy promises, only a short, clear, concise sentence that has the energy of an ending, like the final punctuation of a story. I am ready to move on. I choose to go forward. These sentences are not meant to convince others. They serve as psychological markers that help the unconscious understand that a chapter has been closed. This is more important than you might imagine, because the unconscious operates through symbols, images, and language. A single sentence can be the key that opens the final door of transformation. The last ritual and the deepest is embracing silence. After the loop is closed, the first thing you will notice is an inner space that feels empty. No more fear urging you forward. No more impulse to search. No more noise from unanswered questions. But in truth, Silence is the sign that the loop is completely closed. Because when your inner world becomes clear, you no longer need noise to soothe yourself. Jung called this the silence of integration. It is the most essential moment because it is in that silence that you begin to feel who you are becoming. You simply exist, and this simple being is the state of inner maturity. A small ritual you can practice to honor this silence is to pause for 1 minute before doing anything next. Just 1 minute. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel. I am standing in my new version. The moment you do this, the old lesson merges into you. The loop closes and you step into the next chapter of your journey with fullness. The ritual of closing the loop is not the end of the road. It is the doorway into another form of living, one in which you are no longer pulled by fear, no longer chasing signals from the outside, no longer scrambling for answers that have long been within you. This ritual helps you become the one steering your own ship, not because you know everything, but because you no longer avoid what you already know. When a loop is closed through ritual, it never returns in its old form. It does not repeat to test you. It does not come back to challenge you. Its task is done. What remains is the path you choose to build, the steps you choose to take, and the version of yourself you are becoming. Whole, sufficient, no longer turning back for old validations. If you've made it this far, perhaps the most important thing is no longer in what you have just heard, but in what is quietly shifting within you. This video, these words, they are only the pretext. The real event is the meeting between you and yourself, between the part you show the world and the part you keep in the dark. Jung never asked, "How much have you understood?" He asked, "After all this, can you keep living the same way as before?" There may be no immediate answer. Tomorrow you might wake up, go to work, talk, laugh, behave exactly as usual, but somewhere subtly something has shifted by a few degrees. And those few degrees will decide who you meet, what you leave behind, and who you slowly become. This video has done its part. It has found you and placed a mirror in your hands. The rest no longer belongs to it. It belongs to the small, quiet choices you will make from today onward in silence, when no one else is reminding you to change. Have you ever sensed that someone arrived in your life at the precise moment, as if destiny had positioned them there? Have you ever gazed into someone's eyes and felt something within you quietly shift? Not in your thoughts, but deep in your essence. Carl Jung revealed to us that our most profound relationships do not manifest by accident. There are deep forces operating within our psyches and the collective unconscious. When the frequencies of two souls synchronize, their trajectories inevitably gravitate toward each other. But there exists a truth not everyone is prepared to embrace. Not every deep bond is meant to endure forever. Some individuals come not to remain, but to catalyze your awakening. They arrive like a tempest, intense, unanticipated, indelible. So, how do you discern? Are they destiny, or simply a reflection revealing the unhealed territories within you? Follow this video to the conclusion, because what comes next might fundamentally alter how you perceive love. Number 1. Synchronicity, when two souls meet at the right frequency. We exist in an age where people assume that to comprehend someone you need to know their occupation, their interests, and their history. However, the reality is that you can know everything about someone and still not genuinely understand them. And you can know nothing about someone, yet understand them in a single moment. You might encounter hundreds of people and feel nothing. Then someone appears and suddenly everything transforms. Not because of what they accomplish, not because of what they express, but because their presence makes you feel still inside. And in that stillness, something within you awakens, like an ancient melody rising from a memory you never articulated. This isn't love at first sight. Love at first sight is an emotion. This is energy, quiet yet resonant, like a silent earthquake. Carl Jung named this phenomenon synchronicity, referring to meaningful coincidences that are so precise they seem orchestrated by a frequency deeper than consciousness. It's when two souls encounter each other, not by chance, but because they were summoned toward each other by an invisible signal, one that only the soul recognizes. This isn't fate in the conventional romantic sense. It's a resonance, a subtle yet powerful vibration between two energy fields. And when it occurs, no explanation is necessary because the soul doesn't need reasons to recognize what belongs to it. Think of the moment you hear a melody for the first time, yet it feels like you've existed in its rhythm for ages. You can't explain why, but the song stirs something in you, perhaps longing, gratitude, or parts of yourself you didn't know existed. A soul in resonance is like that. They touch the strings long silent within you, and it's not random. In Jung's worldview, nothing is truly random. He believed that beneath the surface of choices, logic, and daily behavior lies a complex web of the personal and collective unconscious, a realm holding symbols, memories, energies, and archetypes that transcend time. Souls don't just cross paths on the road, they intersect in the depths of being. Imagine this. You walk into a crowded cafe, dozens of faces, conversations overlapping, but you see only one person. Not because they try to stand out, not because they're the most beautiful in the room, but because something in their eyes, their presence, their breath resonates with the quietest part of you. They don't create new emotions. They awaken emotions already there. Perhaps the peace you lost in childhood, or the feeling of being seen for who you truly are without explanation. It's not that they make you feel alive. You come alive again through their presence. When two souls' energies align, you don't need to strive to be understood. You don't need to force yourself to be appealing. There's no role to play, no control. You can be yourself and feel enough. That is a rare safety. It comes not from words, but from a state of being. A friend once told me about meeting a stranger on a train through central Italy. It was their first encounter. Yet for the entire journey they sat side by side sharing stories of their life's adventures. In each other's eyes they saw themselves. They never met again. But that didn't make the moment any less sacred, because what happened didn't come from intention, but from resonance. The key is this: resonance cannot be forced. You cannot find a kindred soul just because you want to. Frequency doesn't respond to willpower. It only answers to your inner state. As Jung once said, people don't have ideas, ideas have people. If your inner world is chaotic, you will resonate with chaos. If you carry stillness, you will recognize stillness in another. Only when you are quiet enough can you hear the echo of someone on your frequency. The strange thing is, these people often come when you're unguarded, when you're not trying to impress, not searching for anything, because in that state of surrender, the energy you emit is your truest. And that truth creates resonance. But beware. Not every resonance promises a long journey. Some souls touch you deeply, but not to walk the entire path with you. They come to awaken a forgotten part, an unhealed wound, an unrealized potential. And that's when you must ask a crucial question. Are they love, or are they a mirror? Number 2, are they love, or are they a mirror? The truth is, not every profound connection is destiny. They may come as a lover, a friend, a mentor, or even someone who deeply unsettles you. But behind the role they play, there is always a sacred purpose. They may reflect your light or your shadow, guide you toward healing or challenge your limits, but they never appear by chance. They may arrive to activate, to stir, to bring forth parts of you that you're not ready to face. And then they leave. Not because you're unimportant, but because their role in your journey is complete. Carl Jung once said that many people you loved passionately, etched into your heart, are not your destiny, but merely a mirror reflecting your inner darkness. This is what causes so much pain that people struggle to understand. Why did I love them so much, yet we couldn't stay together? Why did it feel like a miracle at first, only to shatter in chaos? The answer lies in a truth few dare to face. Some people you don't truly love. You love the part of yourself you discover through them. And when they're gone, you don't just miss them. You miss the version of yourself you touched, even if only for a moment. That version might be an inspired, softer, braver you, or a vulnerable, wounded you that was never fully embraced. Whatever it is, they don't define you. They only reflect what was already within. A real-life example: a woman once shared that she was always drawn to cold, distant men who kept an emotional wall. Every relationship began with longing and passion, but ended in emptiness. Through therapy, she realized she didn't truly love them. She was chasing the feeling of being validated, something she never received from her emotionally absent father in childhood. Those men weren't her destined partners. They were projections of her unhealed wound. Until she recognized this, she kept repeating the painful cycle. This is where Jung goes deeper than any other psychologist. He didn't just analyze behavior, he analyzed the energy beneath it. He believed each person carries an energy field programmed by past experiences, unconscious beliefs, and repressed parts. When you haven't seen your wounds, you don't unconsciously avoid them. You're unconsciously drawn to them. You think it's love, but it's the call of your inner wound. The universe sending someone similar to reflect it. Not to satisfy you, but to force you to confront it. The tragedy is that most people don't see the mirror. They only see the other person. So they cling, they demand, they suffer. They think that person is destiny. When in reality, they came to illuminate what remains unhealed. It's like a weary traveler lost in the desert, desperate for water, who stumbles upon a mirage, a shimmering lake amid scorching sand. He runs toward it without doubt, without hesitation. Each step is a prayer. When he reaches it, he plunges his face into the imagined water, drinking with all the deprivation pent up inside. But there's no water, only sand. And when he realizes it's an illusion, he can't walk away immediately because for that moment, even if it was a lie, it felt like he was close to life. If while watching this video, an image, a name, or a memory flickered through your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Share a few lines below because your story might be a mirror for someone else searching for their path. That's what reflective relationships often do. They don't give you love. They give you the illusion of what you crave most. Carl Jung called these projective relationships projection. In them, you don't love the other person. You love the image you project onto them. You don't truly see them. You see your own needs reflected in their eyes. So, you cling to that image. Hold on. Hurt. Repeat. The deepest pain isn't when they leave. It's when you realize you never truly knew them. You only knew yourself through them. So, how do you distinguish between a destined soul and a reflective mirror? The answer isn't in emotions. Emotions can deceive. The answer lies in your inner state when you're with them. A kindred soul brings peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need to prove anything. You don't feel lacking. You don't feel starved. You don't love them to fill a void. You love because both of you freely choose to be together. Not out of fear, not out of burden, not out of expectation. But someone reflecting your wounds will pull you in, yet leave you unlifted. They disorient you. You feel you must try harder to be loved. You feel insecure, jealous, and anxious. You think it's deep love, but it's the frequency of unhealed trauma operating beneath a romantic veneer. Jung never encouraged avoiding projective connections. On the contrary, he believed they are gateways to profound self-awareness. But only when you recognize the mirror can you learn the lesson and let it go, instead of staring into it, mistaking it for the sun. when you're awake enough to ask, am I seeing them, or am I seeing myself through them? You're taking a step closer to awakening. Not every soul that brings you to tears is destiny. Not every connection that makes you tremble is love. Some come only to show you what you're missing, what you're holding captive, what you're running from. At this point, bigger questions will arise in your mind. Why am I drawn to these connections in the first place? What within me calls forth these souls who don't stay? The answer doesn't lie in them. It lies in you, in the parts that are incomplete, unseen, or never truly loved. Number 3. The incomplete soul. In the modern world, we're taught that love means finding someone to fill us, to seek a missing half, to complete the picture. We call it true love. In reality, it's a hunger romanticized. That hunger doesn't come from the heart, but from an unseen void within. And when you love from such an empty place, what you call love is merely a desperate attempt to escape your incompleteness. Carl Jung said, "The creative mind plays with the object it loves." This means that if you enter a relationship with the mind of someone needy, broken, or chaotic, what you find won't be someone to heal you. You'll only find a mirror reflecting the vibration of that wound. You'll call it destiny, a twin soul, eternal love, but in truth, it's a collision between two egos seeking something to cling to. Love born from hunger always comes with fear. You don't love the other person. You fear losing them. You're not truly connecting. You're grasping. You're not sharing love. You're demanding it as a right to survival. The irony is, the hungrier you are, the more you attract those who will never intend to feed that hunger. Not because they're cruel, but because you've drawn in the exact frequency of someone else who is also starving or unable to give. From there, you fall into a cycle. One side craves, the other withholds, and two souls entangle, not to grow, but to survive another day. Imagine an empty cup. You wander through an emotional desert and find someone you call love, your refuge. But in truth, you're not loving them. You're thirsty. You see them as water, and you drink urgently, greedily, leaving nothing behind. When they're depleted, you blame them for changing. But the problem isn't them. It's the empty cup you carry. Jung would call this the possessive instinct of an immature ego, where love isn't about giving, but about taking to protect your sense of worth. If this message resonates with your spirit, leave a comment below to affirm that you're walking through a sacred moment. In doing so, you're not just joining a healing community. You're claiming your place in something greater than yourself. Jung called the process of psychological maturity the moment when you begin to withdraw projections. See yourself. Embrace both your light and shadow, and become whole as an individual. Only then do you seek love, not for salvation, but to share your fullness. It's no longer save me from myself, but let's go further together. But the tragedy is that many never experience this. They've never dared to sit with themselves. They rush from one love to another, calling it an open heart when it's really organized avoidance, fleeing loneliness, silence, invisibility, and the unhealed wounds of childhood. Hunger never leads to love, it leads to dependence. And dependence doesn't create connection, it creates chains. You'll feel yourself shrink with every unanswered text, every baseless jealousy, every held breath waiting for them to affirm your worth. You become someone begging for love as permission to exist, instead of entering love as a free act of a soul that stands on its own. Love doesn't begin with the question, "Who will make me feel whole?" It begins with, "Am I whole enough to love without clinging, without possessing, without manipulating?" When you enter a connection with the mindset of, "I've already saved myself," love ceases to be a tether and becomes a path to profound freedom. Freedom in togetherness. Jung believed true love isn't the result of luck or a magical right person, right time. It's the natural outcome of a grueling journey, the journey back to yourself. When you're brave enough to sit with your pain, awake enough to stop using love as anesthesia for unhealed wounds, you begin to love, not from lack, but from a full and free heart. From that freedom, love is no longer a hiding place, but a space for growth and transformation. Number 4, true love begins with nurturing, not burning. This brings us to a deeper question. Where does true love begin? Is it from emotions, from a spark, or an unspoken harmony? Carl Jung offered a different perspective. True love can only emerge when two beings have become whole. When each has learned to nurture themselves and embrace their inner shadow, no longer seeking to complete themselves through another. Only then are they truly ready to meet, not to possess, but to evolve together. And you'll recognize this, not through intense emotions or fervent vows. You'll know it through the strange calm that the relationship brings. No more chasing, no fear of being left behind, no battles to prove your worth. In that space, love doesn't burn or exhaust you. It makes you calmer, clearer, and closer to yourself. A woman once shared that she experienced two kinds of love. One that kept her awake at night, uncertain if the other would stay tomorrow, and another that let her sleep soundly beside them, not because they declared their love daily, but because their presence meant she didn't have to try. Not because the relationship lacked conflict, but because everything in it stemmed not from lack, but from understanding. They didn't avoid issues, nor did they use them to gain control. When one whole soul meets another, conflict doesn't become a weapon. It becomes a door to deeper connection. This is the crux. True love doesn't disorient you. It clarifies your path. It doesn't make you forget yourself. It reminds you who you are because both entered the connection not from fear of loneliness, but from the courage of those who faced solitude without being consumed. In that space, love is no longer a refuge but a place to grow. Jung emphasized, no true meeting occurs between two people if each remains lost in their illusions. Only when projections are withdrawn, when you no longer love because the other is your ticket out of suffering. When you stop burdening others with healing wounds you refuse to face, only then does love emerge in its true essence. A sacred space where two free beings choose to show up fully for each other. What's remarkable is this love between two whole souls isn't addictive. It doesn't leave you glued to your phone, waiting for a text like a painkiller. It doesn't make you restless, anxious, or clingy. It's not like those fatally passionate relationships where you can't tell if you're loving or being consumed. Healthy love doesn't unbalance you. It restores your equilibrium. And that's what makes it foreign to those addicted to the drama and chaos of wounded love. In Jung's framework, this is the transformative relationship where love isn't just emotion, but a catalyst for both individuals to expand their limits. There's no tug of war between freedom and connection. No inner battle between holding on and letting go. Because both understand true connection never binds. It uplifts. True love doesn't demand you lose yourself to keep the other. It only asks you to show up as your truest self and be ready to meet someone doing the same. You'll know healthy love not from dramatic declarations like, "You're my entire world," or "I can't live without you." Those sounds are romantic, but are laced with obsessive dependence. True love begins with small, simple, yet powerful moments. I understand you, not the image you try to project, but you, and I choose to stay. No theatrics, no grand promises, just two people, still enough to recognize each other, not through wounds, but through essence. As Jung wrote, what we do not make conscious emerges later as fate. Whole love is the result of that process. A journey not loud, not rushed, not glittering with glamour, but profound like an underground river, quiet, steady, unstoppable. So if you haven't found such love, don't assume it doesn't exist. It does. But it doesn't come to those still seeking someone to save them from themselves. It comes only when you've dared to look in the mirror and not turn away. When you no longer need love as a painkiller. When you can enter a relationship without trading your soul's freedom. But there's a harsh truth not everyone is ready to accept. Even kindred souls may leave each other's lives, and that doesn't make the love any less sacred. If you're ready to unpack this brutal truth with me, comment the number 1, and let's begin. Number 5. Not all soulmates stay. Many believe that true love must last forever. If it ends, it was never real. But Carl Jung, with his unflinching clarity and rare inner wisdom, pointed out that everything in our lives carries symbolic meaning, including people. A soul enters your life, not to stay eternally, but to serve a specific phase of your evolution. When that purpose is fulfilled, parting is not a failure, it is a transformation. We grow up with fairy tales, with promises of happily ever after, with the notion that true love conquers all challenges and life's changes. But sadly, life doesn't operate on the logic of fairy tales. It operates on the frequency of growth. And when one of you grows, when energies shift, the original resonance may fade. Not because someone was wrong, only because the old harmony no longer reflects the new self, and things simply shift. A man once told me about his 15 years with his wife. One day he looked at her and realized she was no longer the woman he had fallen in love with. He didn't betray her, didn't reject her. He simply saw that the woman he once resonated with had become a different soul, like two rivers that once merged at their source. Clear, passionate, magnetic. They flowed side by side, reflecting each other, pushing each other beyond what they thought possible. But over time, the earth shifted, and the currents within it changed. No one betrayed, no one let go. Their streams simply no longer ran parallel, and to avoid clouding each other, they chose to part. Not because love ended, but because they were no longer each other's current. We fear breakups not just because we lose the other person, but because we fear losing the old self that was loved. When a relationship ends, the deepest pain isn't always the loss of the person, but the loss of feeling cared for, chosen, and now no longer. But Jung would ask, are you grieving their loss, or are you grieving the need to face yourself without them as your mirror? The pain of parting isn't always negative. In many cases, it's the pain of crossing a threshold of growth. Like a snake shedding its skin, the old layer once protected it, cradled its former shape. But if it clung to that skin, it could not grow. Relationships are like this. Not all are the one. Some are transitional, unlocking a part of you, granting access to a deeper version of yourself, and then they leave. So, the rest of the journey is yours alone. Understand this. When two souls are aligned, when the timing is right, when energies are balanced, nothing can keep you apart. Not distance, not fear, not circumstance. But if that alignment fades, if the connection starts to feel forced, your soul is gently whispering that it's time to let go. One of our greatest mistakes is trying to hold on to something that has fulfilled its purpose in our lives. We cling out of fear, habit, or the belief that I'll never find this again. But what you don't realize is that by holding on to what no longer resonates, you block what's coming. You delay the blessings trying to reach you. Jung called this the necessary death in consciousness, where an image, a belief, a connection dissolves, not to destroy you, but to force your rebirth. If you keep clinging to what's meant to leave, you stop growing. You get stuck in a decaying past. In Jung's system of symbols, every parting is a transformative ritual. The problem is, we're not taught to part with gratitude. We're taught to fight to the end, to hold on at all costs. But the truth is, letting go at the right time is a form of mature love. Letting go isn't about ceasing to love. It's about knowing that holding on will keep both of you from moving forward. Jung advised that to advance, we must always leave something behind. And true love sometimes isn't about staying, but about daring to walk away so the other can meet someone more aligned without harming their soul. So, if you're at the edge of an ending, don't torment yourself with the question, was that love real? If you were ever your true self, felt deeply, and grew through that relationship, then the answer is yes, it was real. But real doesn't always mean eternal. Something can be sacred and still end. Someone can be vital and still not be the one to walk with you to the end. They came for a reason and left when their role was complete. You're not waiting for destiny, you are destiny. And the moment you start becoming your highest self, the love you deserve will meet you there. Jung said, "The universe has its rhythm, and if you try to force something before it's ready, all you create is suffering." So if two souls are truly meant for each other, trust they'll find their way back, but only when both are truly ready. In the meantime, the most beautiful thing you can do is not cling out of fear, but grow out of love, becoming the person you're meant to be. Because if a reunion happens, it should come from wholeness, not lack. Learn to say thank you instead of casting blame. Thank them for being loved. Thank them for loving sincerely. Thank them for their presence, which helped you touch a deeper layer of yourself. Then walk on, carrying no resentment, no guilt. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." A breakup, when done with awareness, isn't a wound, it's a gateway. It opens a space to reconnect with yourself, to move beyond the illusion of the one who will always be there, and to start asking, what version of me is rising after this heartbreak? Because in the end, no one truly belongs to anyone. We only walk together for a stretch of the road. And if we're lucky, we learn something profound together. If we're even luckier, we know when to stop, bow in gratitude, and continue our journey. Number 6, the journey of individuation. But to achieve this, you must transform at your core, becoming a different person, a version mature enough to see departure not as loss, but as an essential part of returning to yourself. To do this, you must embark on a journey of individuation, doing the inner work first. You must heal your wounds, confront your shadow, and learn to love yourself as you are. Only then are you truly ready to receive the love you deserve. The next time you feel a deep connection with someone, ask yourself, does this person reflect my evolution or my wounds? Is this a relationship built on growth or a repetition of old patterns? The answers to these questions will reveal whether the connection is a blessing or a lesson in disguise. Because ultimately, destiny isn't an inexplicable mystery. It's the consequence of who you are within. And when you transform from the inside, everything around you begins to shift, especially the people who enter your life. Jung would call this a meeting with the anima or animus, the aspects of the unconscious representing the masculine or feminine within us. The practice of individuation isn't some lofty technique. It begins with simple things most of us avoid. First, learn to sit with yourself. No music, no devices, no one else. Just you with your unpolished thoughts and unsorted emotions. At first, you'll feel restless, even resistant. But if you're patient enough not to flee, you'll realize you're not truly alone. You've just never learned to befriend your inner world. Second, practice shadow journaling. If you've seen Pixar's Inside Out, you'll recall how joy tries to suppress sadness, believing sadness has no place in life. But in the end, it's only when sadness is acknowledged that the protagonist reconnects with her true emotions, leading to a perfect harmony of joy and sorrow. So write down all your reactions, hurts, envies, fears, the parts of you society deems unacceptable. Write them in detail to realize those parts are you. They don't make you lesser. They're waiting for you to embrace them. Write as if you're conversing with the wild child within. Jung believed the shadow isn't an enemy, but a guide if you're brave enough to listen. Third, withdraw your projections. One of the most painful yet crucial practices. Look at those who anger you, captivate you, or make you jealous, and ask, what are they showing me about myself that I don't want to face? This demands absolute honesty, making it one of the hardest practices, but it's also where your energy begins to shift profoundly. Fourth, choose relationships from awareness, not hunger. Someone may be alluring, but if they trigger even subtle signs of old wounding cycles, walk away. Saying no to the wrong connections signals to the universe that you've stepped into a new frequency. And at that frequency, the right person appears, not by chance, but by resonance. Finally, remember that individuation doesn't end when you find the one. It's not a destination. It's a foundation. An individuated person doesn't seek love, they become love. And when you become love, you don't chase anyone, you simply live authentically. And someone else living authentically will recognize you. Here's something few will tell you plainly. Love isn't a reward, it's a consequence. It's not for those who excel at chasing, sacrificing, or pleasing others. Love isn't about meeting the right person. It's about becoming the right person. One who no longer sees connection as a place to hide, an escape from loneliness, but as a sacred space for growth. When you live in that state, your relationships cease to be random. They become precise reflections of the awareness and inner honesty you embody. And if, after all this, you still haven't met someone who touches that deeper layer, don't despair. It's not that you're unworthy. It's that the universe can't yet bring the right person while you carry the frequency of what doesn't align. Keep doing your inner work. Keep walking the path of individuation. And as you close your eyes tonight, carrying these truths into sleep, know that something has quietly shifted. The mirror has been placed in your hands. What you do with your reflection from this moment forward is entirely yours. The unconscious has spoken. The seeds have been planted. And in the silence of your rest, they will take root, growing into the version of you that no longer needs to search, because you have finally learned to recognize yourself. Sleep now, not to escape, but to integrate, to let these truths settle into the deepest layers of your being. And when you wake, you will not be the same person who began this journey. That is the promise of true transformation. That is Jung's gift to those brave enough to look within. Thank you for walking this path with me tonight. If you found meaning in these words, if something stirred in the depths of your soul, subscribe to Jung at Night. This is where seekers gather, where the unconscious speaks, and where transformation happens in the quiet hours when the world sleeps. Turn on notifications, because you never know when the next message will arrive, precisely when your soul needs to hear it. Until we meet again in the darkness, may you sleep deeply, dream truthfully, and awaken whole.